Hey, this is Meleika of Evanston Live TV, and I have with me a woman who many of you know already because of her community work throughout Evanston, but she is running for 4th Ward Alderwoman. Please welcome to Evanston Live TV, Diane Goldring.
Thank you, Meleika. I appreciate the opportunity.
Most definitely, most definitely. So you have to tell us, I mean, our city council has been exciting and intense.
That is one way to say it, yes.
Exciting and intense. I mean, we've had reparations come out of there. We watched them go back and forth about budgets and resolutions on white supremacy and um, issues with putting money into big developments like Robert Crown and a school in the Fifth Ward. And I mean, it's just been so many things. And then not to mention COVID-19, all that's going
Right.
on with COVID-19 that has really impacted everyone somehow, some way.
Mm-hmm.
So, Diane, why do you want to run
Right.
aldermen? Because they receive so much heat, so much
Right.
pressure. You can never please everybody.
Right.
And sometimes my heart goes out to them because I'm like, I mean,
Right. The,
I would,
right. The two adjectives I hear most often when people say you're running for you're running for city council, are you brave or are you crazy? I mean, those are the two things that most people say. I think there's a lot of opportunity in city council. And the more I talk to people, the more I go out and petition and have conversations with people, really the more excited I get about it, because there are so many smart people in Evanston with so many good ideas with all the issues that seem on the face really difficult and almost intractable. They aren't. And there's a lot of people that have great input. And the reason I want to run is I don't feel like those people are being heard right now. I think there's a lot of paternalism in a way on city council. People who, some of the council members, not everybody, some of the council members, including the 4th Ward representatives, seem to think that they just know what's best, and they aren't getting the input from the residents, and they're not listening. And I will do a much better job listening and keeping people in my ward informed about what's happening. People are busy. They have a lot on their plate, especially now with people being, families and kids being at home. They don't always have the time to research issues in the city that are going on, that will impact their lives, but they don't have time to go out and read all the council minutes and read everything that's happening. And that's really one of the primary jobs of an alderman, is to keep people informed about what's going on in their ward, have ward meetings, and even if people can't come to ward meetings, which would be understandable, write newsletters and just keep people abreast of the things that are happening in the ward that are going to impact them. And we don't get that in the 4th Ward at all. So I will do a better job with that.
mm, mm. That's interesting. Uh, why do you think that is? Why aren't people getting?
Why aren't we getting information? I really don't know. It seems like a very primary job and not that hard. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know. I don't want to speculate really. I just the current council representative has been there for 12 years now, and it's possible maybe he just thinks he knows what the right answer is and doesn't feel like he needs to get feedback. I don't know. But we have a development that's going on, or that's like on the docket, on Main Street, where the Vogue building is right now. And we did have a ward meeting when it was initially proposed. And so, people gave feedback, but it's moving through the process now. And it's moved out of design and project review committee, and it's going to plan commission in December. And we've gotten, as a ward, no updates at all on what's happening. So, this is how things happen. And people, like, all of a sudden there's a building there or there's construction, and I was like, nobody told me anything. So it's moving through the process, and we aren't getting any information about it. I mean, I'm going to the meetings and I'm listening, and I'm writing on my Facebook page, and I'm actually just starting a blog to try to keep people abreast of what's happening. But there hasn't been a whole lot of information coming out. The budget is another thing. We had a budget meeting when the budget was first released, but there's changes. There's the council meeting and people propose changes, and they hear citizen comments, and the budget gets revised. And last night I went to a joint 2nd, 5th, and 6th ward meeting, and they're having multiple meetings on it. And we've had one joint meeting with the 1st ward, and no updates on the things that are happening. And it's possible our property taxes are going to be increased. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who don't know.
Yeah. And don't want that.
Don't want that. Right. Don't want that.
Wow. So Diane, what is your vision for the fourth? I mean, the 4th ward to me, it's one of those wards that's, is there much, well, you have a lot of businesses in the 4th.
Yeah, it's a very diverse ward in terms of housing stock. There's, large single family homes on Maple and Elmwood. There's large apartment buildings. There's, there's a lot of business, the main Dempster Mile, and some of the, main street businesses. There's a little outcropping of a few main street businesses that are part of it. So
what is your vision for the 4th ward in terms of changes that, you've talked about the communication, definitely, and wanting to hear more from the people so that they have more of a say in the decisions being made. But what are some other changes that you would like to see in the 4th ward, and what would you like to build upon that the current alderman has developed over the 12 years?
I think my vision for the 4th ward is similar to my vision for the city. I think the city needs to do a better job. And I think all of the candidates who are running will say the same thing. All the ones who are challenging incumbents will say that the city needs to do a better job living up to its progressive values. And really, everybody talks about making policy decisions through an equity lens. And I think that's almost become cliche in a way. I don't know that it's being done. I've read quite a bit about what it takes. And I think the school boards are actually doing it. They kind of work backwards from what outcomes they want. And we don't really even have an affordable housing plan. We don't know what's needed. We're just sort of, it feels to me like we're kind of shooting, sorry, kind of turn that off. Kind of shooting in the dark almost, where we don't know what is necessary. We don't know how many units we need, what type of units, where they should be located. We're moving a little bit towards that. There's Plan Commission approved last night, actually, tiny houses, which I think, zoning for really small houses, which are known as tiny houses, which is great. I think that's a good step in the right direction. But we don't even know what we need. And I think so in the 4th ward, I think that's the same as all the other wards. We need to figure out what we need, what we want as a city in terms of who we want to live here. Everybody talks about how families that can't afford to live here, they're moving out of town, especially now. But what's the plan? What's the plan? What's the plan to keep? And
You're out in the community.
I'm sorry, say that again.
You're out and about in the community, so you're hearing what the people want, not just in the fourth ward, but throughout Evanston.
Yeah.
I know you pretty much led, really helped to organize a lot of the volunteers for the senior meal during COVID-19 with Jennifer's Edibles.
Yes.
And Jennifer's Edibles, they speak so highly.
Oh, thank you.
Like Diane is an angel, and they were like, she really helped,
That's really sweet.
to get it all together with the volunteers to get these meals out to the seniors. And we're about to hit another wave of shutdown and quarantine because the numbers are spiking with COVID. And so, we need angels like you.
Oh, thank you.
Out there. So I know you were out. I mean, all the volunteers, you all were out there really risking your life, risking your own health to go out and make sure that others who couldn't leave were okay and fed. So I know you were out in the community. What were some of the things that you were hearing? Because you were boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Out there.
Yeah. Yeah. It actually, I do want to say Jennifer deserves the credit. She deserves the credit. She's the one who's making the meals, and she started the program.
Jennifer and William Easton, they
sweat.
They work.
Yes.
They work.
And yes, I mean, the way it came about for me to start volunteering there was once COVID hit, I think it was William who posted something on Facebook that I saw. So I've known William for a long time. We both work, we're both compulsive morning exercisers. And so I met him at the Y early in the morning. And then I would see him periodically at city council. So I got to know him, and he posted something on Facebook about they're doing this program. And I just reached out and said, what do you need? And they needed drivers at the time. And so that was really an experience for me, driving to different parts of the city, delivering meals. There was, a time when I walked into one of the buildings, the senior buildings, and it's right across the street from E2, which is that huge development on Maple, luxury housing on Maple and Emerson. And then right across the street is the senior building we go into, and the elevators don't even work. So it's just such a stark contrast. And the seniors they were just isolated in their homes. And as far as what we're hearing, it's just people need more help, really. People need more help. We need to prioritize people in this time, rather than enormous, expensive development. We need to prioritize the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's been a huge discussion, especially with the new proposed budget coming up. Many people believe the new budget should definitely look different than budgets in the past because we're in such different times right now.
Right.
Such uncertainty. So yeah, people need to be at the top of the list. Need to be first over anything.
Right. Because people are really struggling. I mean, you see it out there all day, every day. As we're delivering meals to seniors, these are people who really, really need our help as a city. And there's some prioritization of health and human services in the budget, but not nearly enough. And I think right now we're also paying the price of not prioritizing them in the past because we have so much debt service. And that's, our property tax increase is mostly to cover debt service, money we borrowed for other reasons.
Mhm.
That's a problem.
What other reasons for those who aren't aware? I mean, you and I were just talking. Some people don't even know who their alderman is or what ward they even live in,
Right.
so they don't even know like the decisions that are being made, like what's
Right.
actually happening. So,
Right. Well, I mean, Robert Crown is something, it's done. It was the most expensive project in Evanston history. And, it's a beautiful building. There's no doubt about it. And we did need a new Robert Crown. I think I told you I grew up here in Evanston, and I used to skate in the old building, when I was in seventh grade. And I walked in there as an adult and like, wow, brought back the memories. It still smelled the same, so that ice smell. And so I think, we did need a new community center. Did it need to be that one? I don't think so. I mean, it was too expensive. And it felt like people weren't minding the store, so to speak, and watching about cost overruns. And so that would not be my priority, like an enormous community center. However, it's built. So now at this time, we need to think about how do we best take advantage of it, as a whole community, not just Fourth Ward and not just, skaters.
mhm.
Guys, the other ways.
um, you and I, you're very much about transparency, and I mean, that's been, something that people have complained about even on the national level, that there's
Right.
no real transparency. How would how will you bring transparency to your seat if you were to win alderwoman?
Alderwoman, alder person,
Alder,
or whatever they're called. They're still called aldermen in the description, the job description, so to speak. So I think that Javon has done a good job of highlighting FOIA, and I think the city clerk, whoever it is, needs to be the sole FOIA officer. That's my opinion. I don't think departments should be able to that you should allow departments to redact their own records. That is one thing. And I just believe that transparency should be the default. You shouldn't have to fight with your city government to release records. The government is the people. The government is supposed to represent the people, and we, as people, as citizens of Evanston, hired them, and they report to us. I mean, they meaning city council reports to the citizens. So the default should be, unless it's something, human resources related, you need to protect people's privacy, or some other legal reason, the records should be available. There's no reason not to have them available, in my opinion.
Mhm. Um, and I think people want to know. Um, I mean, you've been out there as service to the community, um, being an alder person, alderwoman, alderman.
City
um,
council representative,
City
that's not
council
non-gendered. It's long, but non-gendered.
What is it? What is it about you that the people need to know, that you truly believe this is what the fourth ward needs? This is what Evanston needs in a city council representative.
I think, yeah, it's long. My background, I think that in general, I was handed a decent stack of cards. Grew up here in Evanston and went to Oakton and Shute and ETHS. So I had a great education. I had the opportunity for a great education. I went back to Kellogg, and so I was, had that opportunity too. So I realized that I had a lot of opportunity in life. But it wasn't without some struggle. I'm a single mom and had a ex who was, the best way to put it, less than financially responsible. So I was the sole provider for the family. And after we got divorced, my son lived with me full time and had some real struggles with him. And I reached out and I actually talked to him, just so you know, I talked to him before, asked him if it was okay if I talked about him. He's 17 now, so, and he said it was fine. So I didn't want to violate his privacy, and he said it's okay to talk about this. And he struggled in school and he struggled at home, and there were times when I really felt alone. Really, really felt alone, and I reached out to my village, so to speak, and I was lucky. I was able to find help. Evanston Case, which is a nonprofit organization here that advocates in the school system for kids with special needs. I found them, and they were able to direct me to some other resources. Now I actually serve on their board. And I just realized that how important that village and that help is for people who are struggling. And this is a way, as an alderwoman, for me to give back really to the community. And I think it's a job that I will be good at. It's just fits the kinds of things that I enjoy. I enjoy like nitty-gritty policy stuff, and I'm like, oh, the budget's coming out. I'm excited to look at it. Most people would rather, watch paint dry, but so I enjoy that stuff. And so it's a way for me to kind of use my skills and interests to give back to the community that, it's not a job that everybody would want. So I'm excited about it. And I think that, we need some new energy. And as I said, the more I'm out and about talking to people, listening to their ideas, the more excited I get about doing the job, because I think there's so much opportunity for Evanston to be a leader on the national stage. We're already a leader in terms of reparations. I think that that's a tremendous program, and we've gotten a lot of national attention for it. And I think there's other things that we can lead on, so that I hope that answered it. That's why I think that I should be hired. I think that the Fourth Ward should hire me to represent them. That's how I look at it.
Well, yes, that answers the question. I mean, what it tells me is, you grew up in Evanston. You had a good deck of cards on your side, a good hand dealt to you with education and growing up in Evanston, period. But then you've also hit some challenges, and you worked through those challenges, and you're acknowledging it took a village. It took the community to help you during, times of uncertainty and just difficult times. And I mean, what I heard you say, I don't know what viewers heard in your explanation, but I heard a person who is about the community and understands it takes a community to raise the family.
Right.
And to turn Evanston into what it can truly, truly be. I mean, Evanston is a great place, and you want to build upon that as well, where more of the community is involved, the community having more of a voice, because it's the community, it's the village that helps to make Evanston. So
right.
They should be heard.
I've always been somebody who's been involved in the community no matter where I lived. I lived in the city in Bucktown. I don't know if this was back in the late 1990s, early 2000s. I lived in Bucktown, and I started a race, a 5K race in Bucktown. That's still going, actually. I did it for 5 years and then moved. That's when I moved up to Evanston. But it was one of the more satisfying experiences I've had in my life. I just started this race from scratch. I thought I'm a runner, and I thought there were no races in the city anymore, in the central city. And so I just had this idea I was going to start one, and I did, and raised over probably $40,000 over the course of 5 years, and just gave it all back to the local community organizations for for them to use. I didn't take any money out of it, and it was really, really satisfying. I met a ton of great people, and it got to be a really fun community event. People would come out and start cheering, and it's very, very local. It's grown a lot, but when I did it, it was just a fun community thing for everybody to come out and do. And I can't believe the city actually let me do it, because basically boxed in Bucktown for a few hours on a Sunday morning, but nobody complained. Everybody had a great time. So that's a great feeling. I found that so satisfying, and that's the kind of thing I like to do. I like to build community.
Mm. And one last question. I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
I mean, you have some aldermen up there who are about community and hearing the voice of the community and really value the village. But then you have aldermen in Evanston who are up there on that dais who are not about hearing the voice. They'll listen to certain voices in the community.
Right.
They want to hear from everybody, and they'll just go and make the decisions. I don't know what benefit they get from it. Some people believe they get some back end under the table or something. That it's all a hustle, it's all a game. So if you were to become alderman and you're up there with a few of those aldermen who do operate in that way, how do you intend to handle that and deal, because it's real? I mean, it's on our national level and it's on our local level too.
I can only control myself. I can only control my own actions. I can't control what other people do. So I just intend to govern myself with integrity and transparency, and hopefully I'm good at building coalitions, and hopefully we'll be able to build. There might be some turnover, so every race except for one is challenged right now. So hopefully there'll be some turnover. I've talked to some of the other candidates, and we're all kind of feel the same way about listening to the voices. So, but if there's not, I can only control myself and try to build the coalitions that are necessary to get some of the reforms done. There will be a new mayor. I know that, because the current mayor is not running again. So hoping the new mayor does a better job at managing council. There's a lot of contention right now. Part of the job of the mayor is to, bring people together.
It's a tough job. I wouldn't trade places with it. Yeah, mayor, that is so much heat. I don't even know how you all just take it. I think my temperament is just a little too much. Would not be good up there.
I've talked to, it's a thought. I think about that. And I've talked to some of the sitting council members about it, and you just have to listen to the voices of the people and make the best decision you can, knowing that there's going to be people who are upset. But I feel like if I can justify or explain my decisions in a way that makes sense, that even if people disagree with me, they'll at least respect my decision. It's when decisions are made kind of in a vacuum and not explained that people get upset. Like they don't know why something happened or why a decision was made that didn't seem to be the best for the community. So if I feel like if I can be, again, transparent and make decisions with integrity and explain them, then yeah, people will be mad at me, no doubt. I'll have to just grow a thicker skin. But hopefully that I'll be able to explain it in a way that, even if they disagree, they'll respect.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Diane. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I really appreciated the opportunity.
Well, I wish you the best out there in
Thanks.
that race. I know it's this Evanston, the last Evanston election was exciting, intense, and this one I just feel like
It's
something.
it's going to be an interesting 5 months. Let's just say that.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it, though. As I said, the campaigning has been really fulfilling for me. Just meeting people who I haven't met and listening to all their ideas and getting excited about being able to implement something.
Getting excited over the possibilities.
Yes.
We'll be sure to have you back on as the race continues, and
Great.
it's going to be interesting, I tell you.
It will be. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay, Diane, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.